All right, Broly and Invincible, episode 6. Adam Eve talks to Broly. So let's get to it. Also, you can see this little new art style. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Anyway, let's get it. The air was thick with cigar smoke and the cloying scent of expensive whiskey. Broly stood a mountain of silent muscle in a cheap black suit that strained across his shoulders. He was in the opulent office on top of the roof of Machine Head, a man whose face was a terrifying sculpture of metal and wiring. His bald head a canvas for glowing circuit-like tattoos that glue a purplish pink. Machine Head didn't look at Broly, but at the large holographic screen replaying news footage of the Flaxen invasion. It showed Broly, a black-haired Tempest, catching a tank shell with his bare hand before hurling the tank itself back through the dimensional rift. Remarkable. Machine Head's voice was a synthetic buzz, like grinding gears. Simply remarkable. The Guardians are gone. The new ones are children playing dress-up. But you are a force of nature. He finally turned his optical sensors, glowing a soft, pinkish glow as they scanned Broly. I require security for my operations. Not just a deterrent, but an absolute guarantee of my safety. I pay for guarantees. I understand you are new to this line of work, that you don't ask many questions, and that, in this line of work, kid, is a valuable quality. Broly's expression was unreadable. He needed the money. The Graysons had given him a home, not a bank account. This man was offering a solution to that, a way to be self-sufficient using the only skill he truly possessed, which was overwhelming power that he could use to protect Machine Head. The moral ambiguity of his employer was a foggy concept, secondary to the concrete need that was in front of him. I stop threats, Broly stated, his voice a low rumble. That is what you are hiring. Precisely, Machine Head buzzed. Somewhat of a smile on his metallic face. I'm hiring a final answer. Welcome to the team, kid. Sunlight dappled through the leaves of a large oak tree. Mark and Amber sat on the checkered blanket with textbooks and notebooks scattered between them. This was their normal study sessions that doubled as dates, stolen moments between superhero crises. Mark's phone buzzed. It was a GDA alert. He tensed, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. Amber looked up from her history textbook. Not with annoyance, but with a soft, knowing smile. Go on. Check it out. Is it a bank robbery or another alien worm? Sorry, Mark said, rubbing the back of his neck. It's just a meteor I have to stop. Then go, Amber said, closing his textbook for him. Just promise me you'll be back in time for the movie tonight. And no getting your regular clothes ripped up again. I'm not great at sewing. Mark's relief was palpable. He leaned in and gave her a quick, grateful kiss. You're the best. I'll be back before the previews are over. As he dashed behind a tree to change, Amber watched with her smile never fading. Knowing his secret had been a shock, but it had dissolved the lies and frustration that had plagued their early relationship that was in the regular canon universe. She wasn't just his girlfriend, she was his confidant, the understanding she showed now born of that shared truth, that had forged a bond that was already far stronger than its canon counterpart. Nolan Grayson stood at the window, a glass of water in his hand, watching the street outside. His expression was neutral, but his mind was a vortex of cold calculation. He had seen Broly return, had felt the new confidence the Saiyan now radiated with his posturing, meaning he possibly was no longer an unstable, dormant volcano, but a contained fusion reactor, and it was living in his very own house. The boy is a variable I did not account for, Nolan thought, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. His power grows by the day, and Mark's sentimentality has tethered him here, if he interferes during the pacification process. He took a slow sip of water, his eyes narrowing. A direct open confrontation was out of the question. It would turn Mark against him instantly and could potentially level the city. No, it would have to be discreet. An accident. A mission gone wrong, perhaps a staged attack by one of Earth's lesser threats. That would require Broly's unique power to contain, only for the container to fail catastrophically. He would need to study Broly's new control, find its limited points. He would need to manipulate circumstances to be the unseen hand that guides the bomb to its own detonation. The plan was fragile, fraught with risk, but the alternative was a controlled supernova fighting alongside his son against the Viltrumite Empire. And that was unacceptable. The Saiyan had to be removed from the board some way, somehow, and Nolan began meticulously planning the game. The dinner table was a war zone of silence broken by sharp words. Adam Eve pushed her peas around her plate while her parents, Helen and Carl, stared at her with barely concealed anxiety. "This is not a phase, Helen," Carl said, using his wife's first name as he always did when stressed. "This is a life of violence. We thought with Rex. Well, at least you had someone watching your back, and now I don't." "So what?" Eve shot back, dropping her fork. "That just proves my point. I can't rely on anyone else. I have to be able to protect myself." "Protecting yourself is one thing, Samantha," Helen pleaded, using her daughter's real name. "Seeking out danger is another. These training sessions you've been doing, you come home late and exhausted. You're changing." "Maybe I need to change." Eve stood up, her chair scraping loudly. "Maybe the world doesn't need a princess who can make pink castles. It needs someone who can stand on her own 2 feet and fight. I'm not quitting. I'm not hiding my powers. This is who I am." Before they could reply, she turned and stormed out of the dining room, the front door slamming shut. She stood on the porch, breathing heavily, the argument solidifying her own resolve. She was done being protected. It was time to become the protector. The basement club thumbed through the walls. Mark in his invincible suit stood opposite to Titan, a hulking man with rock-like skin. Titan's expression was of grim determination. "Machine Head is a parasite," Titan growled, clenching a fist that looked like it could crumple steel. "He owns this city underworld. He owns me. He holds my wife hostage. He used her as a leverage to make me his enforcer." Mark listened, his youthful idealism clashing with the grim reality. "So we take him down? We go to the Guardian?" "No." Titan slammed his fist on the table. "The second he gets whiff of betrayal, he'll kill her. It has to be clean, surgical. We hit his central operation. We take him and his command console out at the same time, and we free the hostage. But I can't do it alone. His security is too tight." Mark's mind raced. This was what being a hero was really about. Saving people, and not just punching monsters. Burley walked up the familiar suburban sidewalk with the weight of his pocket feeling foreign and significant. He found Debbie in the garage sorting through a box of old winter clothes. "Debbie," he said, his voice softer than he used with anyone else. She turned, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Broly? Honey, you're back early. Everything okay?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a thick envelope, crisp $100 bills visible inside. He held it out to her for the house, for food, and bills. Debbie's eyes widened. "Broly, no, absolutely not. You saved that money for yourself. You don't need to." "I want to," he interrupted, his tone leaving no room for an argument. He gently took her hand and pressed the envelope into it. "You gave me a home. This is my share." The gesture was clumsy, profoundly sincere. He had leveled mountains and erased an army, but this contributing to a household fulfilling a basic human duty felt like a greater act of control. He wasn't just a destructive force to be housed and fed. He was part of the family, a provider. Debbie looked at the money, then at his earnest face, her protest dying in her throat. She saw the pride in his eyes, the need to not be a burden. With a soft sigh and a tearful smile, she finally nodded, accepting the envelope and the profound meaning that was behind it. The rooftop where Eve had first found him after his return had become their unofficial meeting spot. It was away from prying eyes. The city sprawled out below them like a blanket of scattered stars. When Broly landed, the concrete beneath his feet didn't even crack, which was a testament to his new control. She'd helped him build. He changed out of the stiff, confining suit into his familiar, simple outfit, his torso bared to the cool night air that he had on Monster Island. The envelope of cash felt insignificant in his hand compared to the debt that he felt that he truly owed her. Eve was sitting on the ledge with her knees drawn to her chest, staring out at the lights. She didn't turn as he approached, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, a stark contrast to the focused calm she always exhibited during their training sessions. "You said you were here," Broly stated, his voice a low rumble. that blended with the city's distant hum. He came to stand beside her, a solid, silent monolith against the skyline. What is wrong? Eve let out a short, bitter laugh. My parents, they think I'm throwing my life away, that being a hero is just some phase of violence. She shook her head, the city lights reflecting in her glistening green eyes. They're terrified. They want me to be normal, to hide what I can do. They don't understand that this is normal for me, that hiding it feels like cutting off a limb. Broly was silent for a long moment, processing his own upbringing had no parallels to this situation. There were no worried parents, only survival, the harsh lessons of a feral world and the distant, obsessive figure of his own father. On the island, he began, his words slow and deliberate. The strong survive. But strength is not just power, it is knowing what you are and what you're capable of. A predator that doesn't know to hunt will starve. A prey that doesn't know how to hide from a predator will be devoured. You have to know who you are to continue and prosper. He looked down at her, his dark eyes serious. You are not a girl who has powers. You are Adam Eve, and you are someone who knows herself. To ask you to be less is to ask you to be something you are not. That is a cage. He held out the envelope. This is for you, for the training. Eve looked at it, then up at him, bewildered. Broly, I didn't do it for the money. I know, he said, the envelope still extended. This is not a payment. It is a share, like a hunt. You help me. This is my help for you. It was the same logic he'd used with Debbie, the only way he knew how to articulate support and partnership. If your path is to walk alone for a while, then you should not be burdened. But you are not truly alone. He finally retracted the envelope, placing it on the edge beside her. His point made. You are strong. You have focus. I am still learning. You will be fine by yourself because you know who you are. He then placed a hand on his own chest, a gesture that was becoming familiar. But if you are not fine, if the fight becomes too much, you call. You call me, and you call Mark. We will come. Not because you are weak, but because we are your pack. The word was the closest he could find from his own experience. A pack protects its own. That is also strength. Eve stared at him, the frustration with her parents slowly being replaced by a wave of profound gratitude. His words weren't polished or poetic, but they were rooted in a truth more solid than anything she'd heard in a long time. He saw her not as a reckless teenager or a weapon, but as a capable ally, and in offering his strength, he wasn't undermining hers. He was reinforcing it. She picked up the envelope, not as money, but as a symbol of the pact he'd just made. Thanks, Broly, she said, her voice thick with emotion. That means a lot. Broly simply nodded, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. The city stretched out before them, full of threats and chaos, but on that rooftop, a quiet, unshakable alliance was forged in the simple understanding of what it meant to be different and to be powerful, but together and not alone. The quiet understanding between them was shattered when Broly finally checked his phone after it vibrated in his pocket 20 minutes ago. He pulled out the cheap, rugged phone, its screen illuminating. His suddenly tense features, a single unread text from Mark, glowed in the dark. Going after Machine Head tonight. Titan says he's got his wife as a hostage. This is the only way. Backup would be awesome. Broly's entire body went rigid. The air around him seemed to grow dense, and the concrete beneath his feet emitted a faint web-like crack. The name, Machine Head, was a key turning to a lock in his mind, opening a vault of conflicting obligations. This wasn't just a target, this was his own employer, the source of the money in the envelope he'd just given Eve and Debbie, the man who had offered him a purpose, however murky, and a way to contribute. But Mark was family. Mark was charging into a den of professional killers in advanced tech, thinking he was asking for backup against a simple crime lord. He didn't know he was walking into a trap that Broly was indirectly a part of. Broly? Eve's voice was laced with concern, seeing the storm gathering in his eyes. What is it? His jaw was a hard line, The controlled, thoughtful Saiyan was gone, replaced by the primal guardian who had chased an army through a dimensional rift. I have to go, he growled, the words clipped and urgent. Handle something. There was no time for explanation, no time to entangle the moral knot. The only clear, driving imperative was to get to Mark, now. He didn't leap. He exploded from the rooftop. The sonic boom that followed wasn't the controlled thump of his arrival, but a concussive blast that rattled windows for a block. Shattering the quiet night, he became a green-tinged meteor, cutting a furious straight line through the sky towards the city's heart, where Machine Head's casino stood. His trajectory was a visible line of panic. In fury across the stars, he had to stop Mark before his best friend started a war with Broly's own employer. So yeah, that'll be it in this episode. Next episode, we're gonna have Broly versus Battle Beast. I already got that script written, so I just gotta get the photos done. We'll be out for that. That'll be cool. That was one of my favorite things to write for this whole season. Once again, I already have this season done. We just gotta get it on YouTube. So hit the like button, share all that, comment, subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Peace.